The Volvo EX30 could actually be one of my favourite electric cars I've ever reviewed. But there's a but. As you may know, every single thing in this car comes through one screen. There's no driver instruments. And in the dark, I don't really like that. When you wash it, unless you remember to do in here, that stays dirty. And I don't really like that. Under the nose, there's a little bit of space for a Type 2 cable, which is commendable that there is a frunk at all, because it's quite a small car. I love the way it says EX30 here, just to remind you of what you've bought. And there's no getting away from the fact that inside the back of the car is still quite tight for leg room, for rear leg room. Headspace is good, but if you're over 6 foot, you're probably going to struggle in the back of the Volvo. You get a wiper on it, a button here that opens on this version, an electric tailgate, and even in this kind of compact car, there's a good space for the boot, there's a droppable floor, there's even extra space to store something else, not a Type 2 cable, and Volvo include the will it fit grid on the plastic housing around the boot lid. That's handy. Did you know in Ireland for the first 3 months of this year, blue has been the number 3 best-selling colour for car buyers? And this just happens to be cloud blue. Being a Volvo, safety is a big part of this car. So if you even momentarily look away, this little sensor here will watch you not paying attention and remind you that you should. You can turn these features off, including speed sign recognition and driver attention monitor, but you're probably not really meant to. I love the fact that they have, if you only have one coffee cup today, just use one coffee cup holder. And if you need to, use two. But if you don't, use the best use of this interior space as you can. For some strange reason, to start the car goes into the wireless charging plate. Can't figure that bit out myself. These seats are wonderfully comfortable, so comfortable. And as I mentioned on my previous look at this car in Barcelona, to the majority of places you'll touch and look, this does not feel like a much cheaper than usual Volvo. Something else that properly bugs me, if you go into the light settings to turn the lights on in the car, for example, because it's not that bright out and it's daytime, and you want to put on your normal headlights, you'll have to hit the button, press OK, and then hit close. And you have to do all of those things. It's a 4-step process just to turn the headlights of the car on. Back in my day, Volvo lights just came on all the time. What changed, people of Sweden? Although technically it's China. Since we last filmed this car with you towards the end of last year, Volvo have announced that they're now going to make the EX30 in Europe from 2025. Currently, it's only built in China. Despite the things I've pointed out to you, because I got more time with the car this week, obviously, I really love it. I love how it drives. I love how it's not huge. I love how it's compact and it's got a great use of space. And it's quite an enjoyable car to drive, even in just the standard single motor. A couple of things that make you be able to tailor the car if you like. You can make the steering heavier. You have one pedal driving. When you lift off the throttle, you get a lot of resistance and regen braking, and that kind of brings the car to a halt for you. It's quite a relaxing way to drive a car. A lot of EVs, you feel the weight in them when they're going over a series of bumps or those thuds that you get when you drive over potholes and stuff like that. They've managed to make this car really, really comfortable to be a passenger in, and obviously to drive. It's a lovely smooth ride, and even on these bigger wheels, it just does a great job of absorbing all the lumps and bumps that you don't want to feel inside the car. Now remember, this has just over 270 brake horsepower. That truly is enough for a small family car. The dual-motored version is the fastest production car Volvo have ever made. It's a little over 3 seconds to 60, and I just don't think this size of car needs that level of performance. That'll be the dual-motor all-wheel drive version. This is a single motor on the rear axle, and it's perfect. it suits so well to a rear wheel drive car because you can just flick it in and out of corners all day long. There's an app that you can get from Volvo. You just sign up. It takes 2 minutes. I did it. I don't even own the car and it took me 2 minutes. You can time your charging. You can unlock and lock the doors. You can find out where it is. You can time the charging to come on at 2 in the morning if you like. And you can do all that on the center screen as well. But just the convenience of being able to do that with an app is great. You will want to turn off those driving aids. And even if you jump out of the seat for a second, you don't power down the car, you'll still get a reset of some of those functions on your screen. And you've got to go in again and turn it off again. So flooring it really is quick. And it's quite, the steering can be very, very light, and it's sometimes you definitely will want it weightier, but it just goes into bends because it's quite a low down car and it's got a low center of gravity with the batteries. So it's a very, very enjoyable car to drive that just happens to be electric. There's so much torque that just comes on straight away, and it goes into corners really, really well. If you get stuck in a lot of stop-start traffic, it has auto hold, so as soon as you come to a stop, you can just take your foot off everything and it will keep the car in place for you. Energy consumption then, if you enjoy the power of the car, you're somewhere between 18 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers and up to 25. Really is up to you. If you constantly use that really useful burst of torque all the time, you're going to go through a good bit more power, a bit more of that range. And it's ultra quiet from the outside world. You know, you hear the odd thing going by, but it's very, very cozy and snug, and you feel nicely cocooned from the outside world when you're in the EX30. So all around, a very well balanced, great handling car, plenty of power that you might need. It lends itself to being the perfect city car just due to the size of it. It's easy to park, easy to maneuver. You'll be able to get in and out of the car when you do park between narrow parking spaces around the place. And if you do need the extended range version, I mean, in summertime, I'd imagine you're gonna get around 450, 400 kilometers. You know, it's claimed to be closer to 500. Unless you drive like Miss Daisy all day long, that will be harder to achieve. But I do think there's an element of the EX30 that is almost like an EV hot hatch, just because of the handling, the instant power, the straight line performance, just the whole package. And because of the rear wheel drive motor and the single motor version, you can just flick it in and out of bends, and it's just a really great all-round car. And that is why it is undoubtedly one of my favorites. I really, really love it. Some reason that this car may not suit the family: if you've got huge teenagers, grown adults that you regularly transport because they still haven't moved out of your house yet, they could make this thing challenging. But as a proper little smart hatch to drive, don't forget, speaking of smart, the smart #1 is now available. This is kind of a similar, you know, it's a premium, smaller, really electric car, but still really, really funky to look at, cool to look at. Proof that, you know, as time goes on, electric cars are getting more and more interesting. Stay away from the dual motored version because it's absolutely bonkers in terms of speed. It will get you penalty points and it will cost you a lot of money. Single motor, standard range car will get you somewhere in 350 kilometers. Is that enough for a single charge? Depends on how much you drive. And despite its sometimes annoying quirks like the 4-step to put the headlights on, this is genuinely one of the most enjoyable EVs I've driven. Definitely one of the quickest, one of the niftiest around corners and on the roads. Yes, Kia Niro is a little bit bigger. There's other cars, the Kona as well. But if you want a Volvo badge that looks like this is a good option. Let me know what you think of the Volvo EX30 in the comments down below. Thank you for all the support, and I'll talk to you in the next one.